and welcome to another interesting edition of Health Watch. On this week's production, we've lined up some features for you to learn from. First, our first feature is on asthma. How do you manage an asthmatic patient? Or are you asthmatic? How do you manage the situation? Today on the program, Dr. Ademola Denloye will be sharing with us all we need to know about asthma and how to manage asthma. Moving on, we also have a feature on the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning. Have you heard that before? Find out on this week's edition of Health Watch. My name is Nkem Okibe, and you're on to another interesting edition of Health Watch. My name is Nkem Okibe, and you're welcome to this week's edition of Health Watch.
Those drugs are prescription only, and they are only to be dispensed by pharmacists because we know how they work and we can save you from using it inappropriately.
But at least if you have a cervix, you have a huge chance of never having cervical cancer.
Lack of drug compliance, proper drug compliance. Probably the patient did not take it the way it has been taken.
Glaucoma is the second most common cause of blindness worldwide, and glaucoma blindness is irreversible.
Before a dental surgeon practices anything, the ethics says a patient must go through a dental therapist.
Find out on this week's episode of Health Watch. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Health Watch, reaching you on the station for excellence, NTA Lagos Channel 10. Our first feature on today's lineup is on asthma. Dr. Ademola Denloye will be sharing all we need to know about asthma. We'll be right back.
Asthma is a chronic illness that manifests with difficulty in breathing. Essentially, the signs and symptoms are wheezing, coughing, shortness of breath, and tightening in the chest. Essentially, people find it difficult to breathe out. As rightly said, environment, tobacco smoking, noxious gases, right? We know dust mites, cockroaches, insecticides, pesticides, anything that would irritate the bronchial airway can trigger off an attack. Asthma is caused by two major problems. One is muscle sensitivity, that is the airway muscles are sensitive and they cause constriction of the airways. And then there's inflammation, which is caused by an allergic component. The inflammation produces a lot of phlegm, which blocks the airway and further reduces the flow of air in the airways. So you have bronchoconstriction and you have production of excessive mucus, which leads to airway obstruction. Well, for a fact, asthma is the commonest chronic illness in children. Quite a number of patients worldwide are suffering from this condition. It's very, very common. And I believe it has to do with some allergic problems at birth. People get allergic to some conditions and progresses to airway sensitivity and bronchoconstriction. Well, we technically don't use the term hereditary, but we use the term genetic loading. People who have the genes that predispose them to allergy. Once the gene runs in the family, then you're more likely to be asthmatic than the rest of the population. So there's a genetic loading. Yes, initially we used to treat asthma by following the condition. That is, we respond to the patient's symptoms. The management includes two types of drugs, the ones we call rescue drugs and the one we call controller drugs. So the concept now is to really control the asthma, stop the asthma attack from happening. So in effect, there are a combination of drugs that the patients must take daily. We call them controller drugs, which will prevent the attacks. And in exercise-induced asthma, especially in children, before they go for their exercises, they can take a dose of the medication to prevent an asthmatic attack. So yes, there are medications to prevent the attacks. And usually now that's the mainstay of the medication, of the asthma management. If you are an asthmatic patient, the most important thing is knowledge about the condition, which means you want to avoid areas, you want to avoid environments that will trigger the attack. For example, 5 years ago, we lost a patient who had gone to, asthmatic patient who went for a crusade. Of course, the massive dust triggered an attack and she died from that terrible attack. But asthmatic patients should have their rescue drugs on them 24/7. Anywhere they're going, they should have the rescue drugs. So once they have an attack, there is instant relief or instant management from their drugs. They should always have their inhalers with them.
My name is Nkem Okibe, and you're welcome to this week's edition of Health Watch.
Those drugs are prescription only, and they are only to be dispensed by pharmacists because we know how they work and we can save you from using it inappropriately.
But at least if you have a cervical risk, you have a huge chance of never having cervical cancer.
Lack of drug compliance, proper drug compliance. Probably the patient did not take it the way it should been taken.
Glaucoma is the second most common cause of blindness worldwide, and glaucoma blindness is irreversible.
Before a dental surgeon practices anything, the ethics says a patient must go through a dental therapist.
Find out on this week's episode of Health Watch. Wow, I'm sure that you learned a lot of things from that feature. Up next, what do you know about the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning on our system? What do you know about it? Have you heard that before? Find out on this interview with Dr. Frank Ndului. We'll be right back.
Carbon monoxide poisoning is an environmental health hazard which has not been addressed properly in our country, Nigeria. So that makes the topic very relevant. Carbon monoxide is a gas that is colorless, that is odorless, and that does not irritate in the nostrils. What does that mean? It means that carbon monoxide is a gas which is colorless, meaning that you cannot see it, which is odorless, meaning that you cannot perceive the odor, and which does not even irritate the nose. So meaning that when you're exposed to the danger of carbon monoxide inhalation, you might not even know that you're exposed to any danger. that makes it a very difficult situation. Carbon monoxide is produced from incomplete burning of organic compounds such as petrol, kerosene, cooking gas, wood, diesels, and so on. So from the sources, we can now realize that from exhaust pipes of vehicles, we can get carbon monoxide poisoning. Even in our kitchens, from the cooking gas and also from the kerosene stove, you can get carbon monoxide poisoning. The one that is even dotted here and there are our generating machines, the generators, which we use frequently in this country because of power outages. A lot of them, from their exhaust, let out a lot of carbon monoxide poisoning. Ideally, every day we inhale just little amount of carbon monoxide. That might not be harmful, very little amount. But when the concentration in the air becomes high, then it becomes very, very dangerous. Normally, what happens is that when you breathe normally, you take in air into your lungs, then the oxygen in the air will then diffuse into the bloodstream. And when the oxygen diffuses into the bloodstream, the oxygen attaches itself to an agent which acts as a vehicle called hemoglobin. And that agent will carry the oxygen to all parts of the body. All the cells of the body are supplied through that agent called hemoglobin. But when you inhale a lot of carbon monoxide, what that carbon monoxide does is that it will enter the lungs, get diffused into the blood. It will then go and replace the oxygen from that oxygen carrying agent called hemoglobin. And replacing the oxygen, it will form a complex which is called carboxyhemoglobin. And this carboxyhemoglobin is useless to the body because what the body needs is the oxyhemoglobin, that is oxygen and hemoglobin complex that will be supplied throughout all parts of the body, all the cells, so that the cells will now derive their oxygen. But where the carbon monoxide displaces this oxygen from that hemoglobin, forming that carboxyhemoglobin, it means that the cells are automatically deprived of oxygen. And what happens next? They will start dying. And once the cells starts dying, is sickness. Then you will then present with the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. That is when you might even suspect that you've been exposed to carbon monoxide poisoning. By then it's already late. You might present with headache, with dizziness, with blurred vision, with giddiness, weakness of the muscles. You might even be so weak that it will degenerate into unconsciousness and coma, and finally death. That is how carbon monoxide kills. Once you realize that or suspect in any way that you're exposed to carbon monoxide, the best thing you do is to rush to the hospital immediately, to the hospital emergency unit. There, the blood gases will be estimated, and once it is confirmed that you are already poisoned with carbon monoxide, then the oxygen therapy will be instituted immediately to displace the carbon monoxide that got attached to the hemoglobin and restore the oxyhemoglobin so that the body cells will have enough oxygen. So what are we saying? Because you can't actually tell when you're exposed to carbon monoxide, what it means is that you must be sensitive to your environment. You must be sensitive to sources of carbon monoxide production, especially the generating sets. People keep generating sets in very obscure places that have low ventilation. And with such exposure, it might even mean death. So, once you are aware of your environment, and once you notice the early symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning, and once you are also sure that your kitchen is well ventilated, meaning that all the carbon monoxide produced must move out. And don't keep generators very close to living places, because carbon monoxide might seep into the building and cause a lot of harm to whoever that lives there. Most importantly, those that have big generators, Lister generators, please make sure that the exhaust is pointed away from living places. Some people that have Lister generators, they point their exhaust to their neighbors' houses, thereby poisoning their neighbors once the generator is not. So we have to be aware of this danger of carbon monoxide poisoning and guard against it.
Thank you, Dr. Frank, for sharing that vital information with us. If you're just joining us, the program is still Health Watch, reaching you on NT Lagos Channel 10, the station for excellence. We've talked about two features. We looked at asthma, and of course the last one was on the effects of carbon monoxide on our health. Moving on, do you know that technology makes our life easy? Do you know it makes things very easy for us? Well, the question on your mind now, I'm sure you're trying to ask, what's Nkem talking about? What's the next feature we're going to? Well, this next feature will be telling us the effects of technology on our wellness. Find out. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. We'll be right back.
All manners of technology surround us, from our personal laptops, tablets, and phones, to technology that furthers medicine, science, agriculture, and education. Technology is here to stay and always expanding. As each new technology enters the scene, it has the potential to improve lives.
The impact of technology is massive on the mass. It makes life easy.
Technology, whether you like it or not, has a very strong impact on every aspect.
It helps people to be vast in their knowledge, because you can go on the internet and search whatever you are looking for.
Technology are things that have been manufactured to improve healthcare in terms of diagnosis, in terms of treatment, and in terms of managing patients' health generally.
Today, more than ever, we have the power to prevent diseases by making healthy lifestyle choices. Agricultural technology allows farmers to produce more food. Medical technology gives us longer and healthier lifestyles. Science has been able to track chronic illnesses, diets, mental health information, drugs prescription, assess test results, to mention few. Education has improved drastically with the availability of internet for surfing and educational apps that aid research and learning. The benefits of technology are enormous, but it also has the potential to negatively affect our physical and emotional well-being. With the advancement and efficiency of machines and computers, human workers retain less value. This is an issue that has a global impact.
When you have technology, first it's expensive. You have to spend a lot of money to acquire it. You have to spend money to train. You have to spend money to maintain them. If you use a lot of technology, then you end up reducing the workforce, so people have less jobs to do.
In a bid to improve health and total wellness through technology, treadmills and other fitness machines have reduced the rates people do physical activities and exercises such as brisk walking, jogging, skipping, push-ups, and so on.
Basically, the treadmill, I think, has an advantage in the sense that it allows people to get the required exercise they need in the comfort of their homes and within a very short time. If you look at our environment now, people spend so long in the traffic to go to work and come back, they hardly have any time for exercise. So the treadmill is a shortcut to give them the exercise that they require. The disadvantage is when you overdo it. You over-exercise. Like, everything is good, but excess. If you over-exercise, you may injure yourself.
Research showed that through prolonged use of computers, tablets, and cell phones, people have digital eye strain, causing blurred vision, dry eyes, headaches, neck and shoulder pains. Televisions, video games, and tech toys are some ways technology have negative effect on children. When you notice or your loved ones complain about your tech use, neglecting relationships in favor of technology, interference with your work, losing sleep or skipping physical activities, causing stress or anxiety, then you need to clear your phone of unessential apps. Turn some television time into physical activity time. Keep electronic devices out of the bedrooms and prioritize real-world relationships over online relationships. Technology is a part of our lives as it offers many positive benefits and play important roles in our day-to-day activities. Knowing the possible negative effects can help us take steps to identify and deal with them, because your health is in your hands.
My name is Nkem Okibe, and you're welcome to this week's edition of Health Watch.
Those drugs are prescription only, and they are only to be dispensed by pharmacists because we know how they work and we can save you from using it inappropriately.
But at least if you have a cervical risk, you have a huge chance of never having cervical cancer.
Lack of drug compliance, proper drug compliance. Probably the patient did not take it the way it has been taken.
Glaucoma is the second most common cause of blindness worldwide, and glaucoma blindness is irreversible.
Before a dental surgeon practices anything, the ethics says a patient must go through a dental therapist.
Find out on this week's episode of Health Watch. And that's the size of our package on this week's edition of Health Watch. Remember to send your questions, your inquiries, and you have comments, then send your mail to okibeinkem@gmail.com or healthwatchntalagos10@gmail.com, or send a text only to 07060865487. Thank you for being part of this week's edition of the program. My name is Nkem Okibe. See you next week, same time, same station. Bye.